Do you have tight wrists, sore arms, stiff fingers from writing? Well, I used to be that person. I used to be that person 5 years ago, and I have right now solved it for myself, and I want to share my solutions. So, in a nutshell, I've kind of reflected on it a lot. And this is a big post that talks about all the different things that I've looked at, tried, the problems, the solutions, and so on. But all of this actually just boils down to three things that I want to focus on. So the first one is use a split keyboard and create a custom keyboard layout that suits your needs. Now, why is a split keyboard so important? A split keyboard allows you to position your hands in a way that is relaxed and neutral. A split keyboard allows you to create a custom keyboard layout that suits your needs instead of having these bloated keyboard layouts that has a lot of useless keys that you don't use, and also that has a very far distance to all of those keys that you do use. Because being able to have a custom keyboard layout allows you to layer a lot of different functionality on top of it, making it extremely custom. So this split keyboard that I have right over here, like so, my custom layout allows me to have a mouse in here. It allows me to have a keypad. It allows me to have a really cool pairs layer that I've created. It allows me to have a F function layer, and it also allows me to have some arrow keys and other small optimizations here and there. And this keyboard over here is then positioned for my hands instead of me positioning myself to conform to the keyboard. And how do I do that? Well, you might have noticed that my keyboard actually is clamped to my chair. Is the clamp that I use? It's a normal clamp, but it screws onto this MagSafe magnet that I have over here. This is meant for phones, actually. And this over here allows me to then clamp to the keyboard because I've glued on a MagSafe strip onto the keyboard on the back. So if you see this, my hands are relaxed on my legs over here, and I can slightly rock back and forth, make sure that there's blood flow and circulation. I am slightly leaning forward, and it feels great. I can sit like this for hours on end. Now the next thing, constantly optimize to do more with less movement and keystrokes. And this is something that I kind of understood, but I never really internalized. So before, I used to try to optimize things with the tools that I was using. I would use a lot of different note-taking apps like Evernote, Obsidian, and Notion, and so on. But the one big change that I did that revolutionized the way that I am moving around right now is actually Neovim and Vim motions. So I'm going to show you a mini example over here in this text. Here's an example of using a mouse and my old methods versus using a Vim and Vim motions to do changes in text. So let's say I want to change ergonomic keyboarding to ergonomic video in this text over here. In the past, I would take my mouse, I would move all the way to the end of keyboarding. I would just do backspace, 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 and then I would write video. And then I would jump to the place that I was, somewhere like so. And that would be the way that I would create that change. I would have to move my hand to my mouse, move my cursor to that word, click, make the change with the keyboard, and then move back again to where I was. Now, how can I do this with Neovim and Vim motions? So to achieve this, what I can do is I can kind of search for that word if I want to. So I can do something like find K. And as you can see, I can jump to that K right now by pressing H. This is something called Flash, which allows me to move very easily around this whole text over here. So I just press H, which jumps me to the K. To delete the whole word, I can do DW for delete word. And then I jump in and I do my change, video. And then for me to jump back to where my cursor used to be, I just do Control O, like so. And just like that, I've done all of those changes, but I've only done a couple of keystrokes. This is my sequence of keystrokes that I did for this whole change. So I did this for find, I did K for finding that key, and then I did the jump, which I think was H, and then I did D, W to delete that word, and then I did I to go into insert mode, and then I wrote video, actually with a capital V like so, and then I did control plus O to jump back to where my cursor used to be. So this key segment and this keystroke over here is the same as me moving my mouse to this, clicking over here, moving my mouse back again, clicking over here. That is the power of using Neovim and Vim motions to move around text. It allows me to fully eliminate the mouse and the mouse movement that cause so much stress and pain in my hands, and that is something that has really revolutionized the way that I do things. So by being able to be a bit more optimal with your movements and the way that you do things in a text editor or in a browser, for example, I use Vimium to do the same thing where I can jump around and open links. This has allowed me to pretty much eliminate a lot of the mouse usage that I used to use in the past to then do all of these small movement cursor clicks, and instead do all of those clicks with the keyboard. And that is the three things that really helped me to grow and become pain-free. These three things over here. So use a split keyboard and create a custom keyboard layout that suits your needs. And then we got position your keyboard to accommodate a neutral and relaxed body position. And the last one is to constantly optimize to do more with less movement and keystrokes. So if you have any ways of being more ergonomic when you are writing on your keyboard, well, comment those tips and tricks down below. This is just my journey that I've had over the span of 5 years now to go from painful to pain-free. And it has been quite the interesting journey. I feel like these solutions that I've stumbled upon weren't things that were on my radar, but when I boil it down and when I look at these three things again, the three things that really embody the essence of my improvements, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense because it is ways of eliminating those pain points that I used to have, and now I'm pain-free, which is amazing. So that's it for this video. My name is Paul, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.